Welcome to the We Are Wake Tech podcast with your host, Wake Tech President, Dr. Scott Ralls.
Hello and welcome to the We Are Wake Tech podcast. I'm Scott Ralls, President of Wake Tech, and your host today. And this is a great podcast because we have another president, president of all the students, our student government president, Silas Johnson. And Silas, it is great to have you today. Appreciate all you are doing here at Wake Tech right now.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you allowing me to kind of contribute and also having me today. Thank you.
You're a big contributor. The student government presidents at Wake Tech, I've been multiple places, but Wake Tech student government presidents have had quite a legacy. We have had leaders after leaders after leaders, and you're following right. You're following those footsteps, setting new bars, and you're a very active student government president. In fact, you joined us yesterday at a city council meeting, so you were everywhere. You're ubiquitous in a very good way.
Well, thank you.
So you're active and you're a leader. But before we dig into this year and the things that you and the other members of student government are focused on or paying attention to, let's talk a little bit about you.
Okay.
Tell us your story. I know we met, I'll tell a part of your story.
Okay, so
but we met when you were in high school.
Yes, sir.
But you were a CCP, a Career and College Promise dual enrollment student, and you were active then because you had participated in our student forums. But tell us a little bit about the Silas Story to Wake Tech.
Yeah, so I was born in a big family. I'm the oldest of 10, actually. But I did a lot. I was homeschooled and kind of did that for a little while. And then my parents actually went to a conference and were talking with some people like, hey, what's the next steps, as he moves into high school and stuff. And they were like, hey, a community college, you get that like early college stuff going and you're just a step ahead of the game. So they kind of were like, hey, you want to do it? And the way I thought about it was kind of like, I got to be in school anyway, so I might as well. And so came here, had some really great support, people helping me along the way, had a lot of really good teachers right off the bat, which I think made me just like the college even more. And then I saw your student forums like you were talking about and started coming to those, and that's how I actually got to know you. And then you encouraged me to join the student government, and a little bit later I did just that. Yeah, there you go. So I a little bit credit you to some extent for me being here, so thank you.
Yeah, well, it's a little bit of a unsung story with community colleges and homeschool families. Absolutely. Because we see this a lot for students who are homeschooled as they get older and you get further along in high school, and the dual enrollment really works well. Sometimes science and other things can be difficult in a homeschool environment. So I'm sure you probably see a lot of peers who are from homeschooling backgrounds that came to Wake Tech and others.
Sure. That was actually how they heard about it. Was one of my friends who was doing it, actually two of them at the time. And then I've since then encouraged other of my friends to do it, and I have at least two more that I know that I've had a direct impact on them kind of following along doing the same thing. So it's been really awesome, and then learned a lot through especially ACA 122, which kind of explains the whole college process, transferring and all that. And then kind of have been able to help, kind of mentor / kind of support them along the way. So it's been a really awesome opportunity.
Did you see much transition? So you were starting in that dual enrollment as high school. Now you were an active high schooler because, like you said, you were participating in forums. You were here. So was there much difference for you going from dual enrollment at that age into now where you are? Have you how's that evolved?
Honestly, it hasn't been much difference. I think you get a very similar college experience, other than like advising. And I love my advisors from both sides, but that's been pretty much the biggest change. Has just been I've gotten different advisors because they have the advisors who specialize in CCP and all that, and then the advisors who specialize in kind of your traditional college format. So other than that, though, it's been the same experience across the board. I did a lot of online college and then switched right before my end of my time in CCP to being an in-person student, and enjoyed both of them.
Well, you were very mature because I do remember in those forums when you first told me you were a junior in high school, and I was like, really? Because usually we don't have CCP students in the forums, but that was great. And you also said, so you're the oldest of 10, which we love because that means we may get 9 more potentially if you're a good salesman.
You've already got one of them.
Yeah, so that's exciting to think that there could be other Johnsons along the way.
For sure, yeah. My brother, he just started in the CCP not too long ago, so this is his first semester.
The next step.
The waterfall start.
How did you? And I think this is my opinion of you, but I think you're a natural leader. That's natural for you. But how did you decide to take the step to actually go into the formal role of being the student government leader at Wake Tech?
Yeah, honestly, I would say I kind of, student government and stuff like that government's been something I've been interested in. And this was kind of something that I could get involved in while being still here at school. I mean, you can't go into politics and be in school,
right.
And it's kind of nice because it's without all like the division of politics, because we're all working towards a common goal of supporting our students and giving them, the experience they're looking for.
The good side of politics.
Yeah, absolutely, right. So kind of seeing that, and then after you encouraged me to join student government, I'd already seen kind of the posters up, and then I was finishing up that year online, so I was like, hey, I'm going to wait a little bit, and then next year I started getting involved, coming to the events. I met William, our last student president, and he kind of told me a little bit about it, and started looking into things, and then actually kind of started almost working with them in almost like an unofficial role where I was just showing up at everything, and then kind of saw what was going on and was like, I could do this, this sounds fun, and then kind of the whole campaigning process, and here we are.
Yeah, and here you are.
Yeah.
So for this student government, what's some of the things as you all have come in? We're still in it's October, so we're still in the first part of this year.
Right.
What are some of the things that students are talking about, student government's interested in? Where you see us with Wake Tech needing to fill in some of these areas?
Yeah, so I think our biggest thing is really just kind of support has been something we've been huge on. Is kind of students, I feel like there's so many support opportunities here at Wake Tech, and we've done an amazing job, but some students just don't go looking for them, and so we're trying to be that bridge between, students and faculty, and kind of helping them with their being like, hey, here's opportunities, here's what you can do. And then the other big side of that is just coming out of COVID now, trying to revamp our events and kind of really hit the ground running, so to speak. And so we've already hosted some stuff. We did our National Cheese Pizza Day kind of as a way to talk to students and let them know about student government, but also just have a fun time together. And, that was a huge success. And then also just support, as I mentioned before, we just passed a motion to donate $3,000 to the Hurricane Helen relief.
That's right.
So I was really happy to see that. And one thing we don't always get kind of talk about, but like when I first came to the student body, because I wrote the motion for that, I was like, hey, let's give $2,500. And they said, no, I don't think that's enough. We could do better than that.
Really?
And so it was really surprising, but also just, a joy to see them saying, no, we think we could do better.
Yeah.
Like that would be good, but that's not enough
that's
for
terrific.
us. So I was really happy.
Well, I was really proud of you all because, that's certainly something you all did. I don't think anybody came to you. You just took that on, but you donated your funding to Hurricane Helen relief for Western North Carolina. I grew up in that area in Asheville. So when I saw that from the student government, and that's supporting a fund that supports the community colleges and the students in those affected Western areas. So that's another great example of leadership. And student government here has, I am very Wake Tech biased. So I'll say everything's, but I do think there's something unique about student government here. And I think it's, in my opinion, it's just been you've had leaders who have kind of influenced the younger students as the first year students, and it just kind of keeps the ball rolling in some ways.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah, I like to see kind of how, the past student government people like Kevin, for instance, we love to talk about Kevin. He had an influence on me and kind of, just that cheerful attitude showing up at everything. And I think I can already see how hopefully, that should have an impact on some of our senators and things like that. So like you say, the ball just keeps rolling and hopefully getting bigger and picking up more
it's role models. And you'll be a role model for those who are watching you now, but it is unique. And I do appreciate too what you were saying about the support structure, because a lot of times I feel like the bigger, your weaknesses or your challenges are the opposite of your strengths. Sometimes, and a strength of Wake Tech is we're so big, and we have scale, and we do have lots of things here, supports and programs and our weakness is also we got lots of things here, supports and programs, and it can be hard to navigate. And as much as we try, students helping students navigate is really a key aspect of that.
Yeah, and I really like what you did with the TLC, kind of just taking all those support systems and kind of umbrellaing them in that one area so they can all kind of help. You know, it's not a confusing, you know, do I go to the English department writing or do I go to ILC writing? Right. It's just kind of, they're all one group together now. So I was really happy, and I think y'all did a great job with that.
Now, one thing I have to correct you on, because you just gave me credit for something I don't think I should take credit for, because you said one thing that I did, but it was really, you know, our great faculty and team from our now TLCs, what we used to call individualized learning centers, who really pulled that together. I may have suggested at one time, hey, you know, maybe we should pull some of this, but they came up with just in a relatively short period of time, a way to try to bring all those tutoring and academic success and support programs together in a more seamless structure. And I guess that's what you're saying, it's helping out in some ways to see all those resources.
Yeah, I've always been a huge fan of the ILC. I think people kind of sometimes mistake getting help as like, oh, I'm a poor student, so I need help. But the way I see it is kind of like oh, I'm an average student, so let me take that B to an A. You know, it doesn't have to be, you know, I'm failing, so now I'm going to go get help. So I think that's kind of, you know, a mistake that some people place in their mind. But understanding, no, that's how a lot of our A+ students are getting their help. I mean, I see your list of students that is the 4.0s, and I'm like, I know some of them that go to the ILC or TLC now. So
I don't know why any student wouldn't take advantage of that.
No. So it's an awesome support system, and I appreciate kind of how they pulled it all together.
Yeah, I do too. And I was really, Gabby McCutcheon was on the podcast earlier with Kay Ruffin, and we talked about that. And to be honest with you, I was shocked because I did not know they had pulled it together so quickly. You know, the team, the faculty, they just came together, and they're, you know, still evolving, but over a fairly short period of time, they made that work happen. Speaking of that, you know, the conversion of ILCs and our academic success centers to TLCs, you know, is kind of this care theme. So we have TLCs and we have care teams, and now we have, you know, in our care centers. Absolutely. Do you think students see that? Do they see the Wake Tech care approach, and is that meaningful to them?
Oh, I definitely do, and I know a lot of my fellow students do. You know, kind of just, I know there are some awesome stories about how people have just come together. You know, I was talking to Matt Smith not too long ago, and he was talking about how you have these people, you know, get called in the middle of the night, and they're just there to kind of support students, and it's like, it's just incredible to see how some of the Wake Tech staff are just willing to sacrifice, you know, so much of their time to help students and to really get them along. And then that's why you see these people who are doing these incredible things, US Skills, you know, and all this involvement and stuff that we have. And I think really a lot of it comes back to the support we have at Wake Tech. And we are huge, like you say, and that can be a problem. But at the same time, I feel like for a college our size, we're such a nimble college that we kind of, you know, are still able. I mean, anyone at Wake Tech can usually point you in the right direction. And I love seeing how they just have that kind of, everyone almost knows every program and they specialize in their area, but they understand what their colleagues are doing and how to point students in the right direction.
Yeah, so. I know what you're saying. I think our strength is we are very large. We have scale that allows us to have things, but I think we try to act small.
Absolutely.
And I think, you know, and I do think, you know, the secret for us is not, you know, we have our strategies and we have our different things, but there's a culture among the people of Wake Tech that is really the people who are on our faculty, on our staff. They're here because they have a unique, they care for the students and their success, and that comes out in their daily the way they teach, the way they support.
Absolutely, yeah. It's been really incredible just to see the amount of support here and the way people are willing to go way out of their way to help you, and it's like, well, thank you so much. So I appreciate that.
Well, we've talked about the great things about Wake Tech, but there's got to be some things too that we need to work on more. From a student perspective, do you think students would like to see more at Wake Tech?
Yeah, I think events, honestly, coming out of this COVID, which I know is hard for all of us, is one of our biggest kind of, you know, concerns, so to speak, but really just revamping the events and
more activity.
Yeah, more activities and stuff. And I know we've talked some about that in the past with different clubs and stuff, but I like to see we in fact just added a club and kind of, you promoted the pickleball club at Wake Tech.
Oh, yeah,
so we just donated about $500 to them from a request to help support that club. So I love to see how our clubs are not only stagnant, they're growing and new clubs are coming along. So I think we're headed on the right track, but always support is welcome, and
absolutely. I think that for a lot of students like you and students that are here now, that the impact of COVID, when we look back on it, and those 2 years were they were tough. They were tough, and but I've heard some of our faculty and staff say that it seems like this year students really are. I think it's been an evolution there, but are more engaged in multiple ways. And what you're suggesting is they're looking to come back collectively and more things that we can do, events and other student activities.
Absolutely, With our all-time high record enrollment that we're having this year, I think it's good and definitely a joy for me to see how students are coming to events. They're super wanting to participate, and we filled up our Senate completely this year, so I was super happy about that.
Talking people into it.
So I was really happy.
That's great. Well, we've talked about what's happening at Wake Tech now and how you got to Wake Tech, but talk to us a little bit about what's next. You got such a bright future. I know folks would like to know what do you see is that next step. We hate to think about you not being at Wake Tech, but someday we know you're going to have to move to the next place. What do you see that next place being, and how does that look for Silas?
So honestly, I'm kind of still deciding, so to speak, but I think that's the great thing about Wake Tech is there's just so many opportunities that it almost makes it hard to choose, so to speak. But hoping to go into some sort of business management role of some sort. So I'm looking to, do that in the near future. I might transfer, might not, because I think Wake Tech kind of puts you in a unique position where you can transfer if you want, but you can also just kind of go straight into the work field with the degrees we provide here. So I think that kind of has put me in a unique spot, but honestly, I'm still trying to figure it out and looking for advice from people, counseling.
Well, you don't have to figure it out all at once. What's your program area now, your major? I forgot.
So I am in the Associate in Arts program for transferring.
So it gives you flexibility.
Yeah, it gives me a lot of flexibility because I can just get my degree now, but it's also setting me up really well to transfer if I do choose. So it's kind of a really awesome spot to be because it gives me two options and you're not locked into one thing that you might later regret. So I've been really happy about that.
Well, that's great. Well, Wake Tech, we like to say lead the way. That's been an old saying, but it takes leaders to lead the way, and we're fortunate at Wake Tech. We have a great leader here in our student government, Silas Johnson. He's doing an amazing job with all of our senators, all the student government, helping to move Wake Tech forward, and you're everywhere, which we love. You are everywhere and involved in all of this Wake Tech and making Wake Tech a better place because you are here and you've been here. So thank you for what you're doing here at Wake Tech. And to our podcast viewers today and our listeners, thank you for joining us on this episode of the We Are Wake Tech podcast. We always look forward to sharing with you what's happening at Wake Tech. So look for us soon again. We'll have a next episode that will share more about Wake Tech. And so you can find podcasts wherever you look for podcasts, Apple, Spotify. Tell your friends and family and be sure to rate us on our podcast. And thank you for joining us on this episode of the We Are Wake Tech podcast.
I'm Joshua McKinney with your Wake Tech News Update. More than 700 prospective students and their families discovered more about Wake Tech during Open House. Held at the Southern Wake campus, prospective students explored academic programs and learned about the admission process, financial aid, and much more. Specialized tours were provided by student leaders where visitors saw firsthand state-of-the-art labs and classrooms. If you couldn't attend the open house, you can still take an in-person or virtual tour or attend an information session. Learn more at visit.waketech.edu. Wake Tech is joining the North Carolina Community College System's relief effort to support sister colleges impacted by Hurricane Helene. The Hurricane Helene Community College Response Recovery Fund aims to support the 14 affected colleges and their surrounding communities in western North Carolina as they face widespread damage, power outages, water shortages, and loss of communication services. You can learn more at news.waketech.edu about how you can contribute. Wake Tech is proud to announce it has been selected as the U.S. Department of Labor Apprenticeship Ambassador. The recognition certifies that the college is committed to modernizing, diversifying, and expanding registered apprenticeship to support the success of American workers, employers, and communities across the country. Congratulations. Wake Tech students wowed the judges and earned 43 medals at the North Carolina American Culinary Federation competition on the Scott Northern Wake campus, including an impressive 15 gold medals. 5 of those gold medals came in the wedding cake category. Every student who entered a cake won a gold. It's the first time in the competition history that that's happened, and that dates back to 2009. And that's your Wake Tech News Update.
Hey, this is Richie Tarby from the Wake Tech Community College Motorcycle Basic Rider course. I have 5 tips for safe riding. The weather's going to be beautiful this fall. It's prime weather for motorcycle riding, and we'll go right into tip number 1. Tip number 1, practice T-clocks. That's your tires, controls, lights, oils, chassis and stands. Those are your pre-ride checks. Tires being one of the most important ones. Make sure you have plenty of tread. Make sure you have good inflation on your tires. Tip number 2 is presentation. Not the presentation for school or work, but presenting yourself to other drivers. It's important to maybe wear high-vis clothes. Make sure other motorists see you. We are hard to see on motorcycles. We have a small visual footprint compared to cars, so do whatever you can do to make yourself seen. Along with other traffic tips, we have number 3. Number 3 is cooperation with other drivers. Use your turn signals. Be courteous. Also a reminder, lane splitting and lane filtering is not legal in North Carolina. Ride responsibly and put a good face for other motorcyclists. Tip number 4. Road conditions. We're getting into inclement weather as well, so there could be leaves on the road, grass clippings on the road. We also have a lot of rain in winter, possibly icy roads, so beware of conditions while you're riding and before you head out. And the last one is what is commonly referred to as ATGAT. That's all the gear all the time. When you go out, you may have heard it before, dress for the slide, not for the ride. Wear as much protective clothing as you can. You're very exposed on a motorcycle. That's all the tips I have for you today. I hope you enjoy your ride this fall, and please stay safe out there.
Thank you for listening to the We Are Wake Tech podcast. Join us next month for more insightful conversations about the programs and people of Wake Tech and how the college changes lives every day. Be sure to subscribe to your favorite podcast app to have each episode delivered right to your computer or mobile device. For more, find us at podcast.waketech.edu. To learn more about Wake Tech's exceptional educational opportunities, visit waketech.edu.